Okay, time now is 10:52. We are going into open session. At this time, we are going to jump down to agenda item T, consideration of possible action on discussed items in the executive session. So at this time, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the forensic accounting firm, Sage Investigations with Ed Martin, to do a comprehensive forensic audit into matters of concern. Got that?
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Frias, a second by Mr. Robertson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, jumping to agenda E4. Engineers report from Utility Engineering Group for construction projects and proposed new developments. Mr. Montgomery.
Morning.
Morning.
Provided a memo and a map. Happy to answer any questions if you have any, but I don't have any additions to the memo.
Back on likely funding sources of
Sure.
problems in the future.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Nope. Okay, moving to item number E5, Board of Directors Committees. Okay, so I appreciate everybody's involvement on getting back to staff as to what committees they want to be involved with. Mr. Cooper, thank you for sending that letter in as to your timeframes and your involvement with CRWA. Took that into consideration. Does anybody have any requests or changes to the committees as read on the page in your binder? Good? Everybody good?
This comment, the construction committee is purely that, construction procedures,
Correct.
construction updates.
Right, so
They're
that.
not going to delve into any kind of funding issues for this kind of stuff.
No, so my idea on the construction committee, and I'll create a kind of a reason kind of category as to
Template.
why a template. And then I'll let the chair, Nick Sherman, kind of elaborate more on it. But the idea behind it was for a committee to be involved on wastewater projects, water projects, their timeframes, where their recommendation is to the board, in conjunction with the engineers' reports. But to also just make sure that anything addressed is handled at their level, so we're not eating up a lot of the time during the board meeting, so we can get these meetings moving along quicker. So if there's no objections to the way the committees are formed and who's on the committees, we'll just move forward to the next agenda item. Okay, agenda item F, consideration of amendments of the GVSD bylaws, section 5.01, governing the date and time of the regular meetings of the GVSD Board of Directors and take action necessary. So as we start the new year, I wanted to give the time to the Board of Directors to comment as to what times, dates that they feel that the meeting should be held, reasons why, bring it up for discussion. I know Mr. Hendricks was able to get notice to everybody per the bylaws, and it's also in our packet within the appropriate amount of time frame. So if everybody goes to section F.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call a vote to determine whether this board should change the bylaws for the scheduled time.
That's why we're doing this. So,
Well, before we get into the discussion about the when and wheres, I think we need to make a determination because there's two items on the agenda
okay,
to dealing with a bylaws change.
okay,
And because the bylaws change requires a 2/3 majority, we need to make sure that we have that majority before we move forward with determining what dates, times, et cetera, should be determined.
mhm. Okay, so my understanding was, as long as the board is notified, we can take a vote on this matter. And then obviously I gave the Exhibit A the options as to what is to be considered. So
No, I understand all that. The only thing I'm asking is, in respect to time right now, we need to determine if the changes can be made before we concern with what the changes are.
Okay. All right, so we'll do that then. So at this time,
Hey, John,
Go ahead.
so are Shan and Mr. Terrell, are we able to take a vote on something that's not called out on the agenda?
The agenda item was to consider a revision to the bylaws. Um, And Mr. Cooper's correct, that requires a two-thirds vote. So you,
Yes, we can do
so
that.
you would, so it would require 5 people. And so it, you could have a preliminary vote on whether to approve the bylaws or approve a change to the bylaws. And then you could have a separate vote as to how to specifically amend the bylaws.
Under the same agenda.
Under the same
Okay,
agenda
thank you.
item, it'd be
That's-
okay.
all right, that's how we'll do it
So-
then.
To be clear, the first vote is going to be, are we going to talk about it? So if we, is that a simple majority or is that going to be?
No,
two-thirds?
no, the vote is, are we going to change it? Not are we going to talk about it?
Oh, I thought that's what,
The request is to change the bylaws.
I think the request is to talk about changing the bylaws. That's my understanding, that we're going to talk about if we want to do the meeting times, and if we don't, then we don't. It gets defeated. Not that we.
Consideration of amendment to GVSUD bylaws, section 5.01, governing the date and time of regular meetings.
Correct. And if we don't get-
Amendment means action, not
Correct. And if we
discussion.
don't get the 2/3, it won't happen.
That's right. So
Yeah,
that's all I'm looking for
Yeah.
is just a vote on whether the bylaws should be amended at this point in time.
Okay, so at this time, I'll take the motion to,
And I'm sorry, I'm confused.
sorry.
So
Okay.
This is a little bit of a confusing issue as raised. Generally speaking, the way you would proceed is to start with a motion to change the bylaws to a certain, to reflect a certain date and time of your meetings, and then ask for a second, and then you can have a discussion and you can get as far deep into the discussion as you want as to what people are agreeable to as far as what the date and times are of the meeting. And that would be considered an amendment to the original motion, and then you could vote in favor of it or.
The general overview is to go to 2 meetings per month in the evening, correct?
Like I said, it's options in there. That's why. I
Right,
gave
right. But
options.
that's the basic overview. To speak to Shan's point, we can elect to make that change and then determine the exact date.
Yes.
So with the first vote,
Either way is fine. I think it's fine to just start with a vote by someone, by a motion by one of the board members to change it to one of the specific options and see if it gets a second. And if it does get a second, then you can have a discussion and negotiate among yourselves about what you want to do. But you can carry it all in one motion that's subject to amendment to adding the specific dates that you all agree on during the discussion portion.
And again, the reason why I'm doing this is so that we can establish this year's calendar going out so that everybody can adjust their work schedules accordingly. But again, I'll take a motion. Anybody?
I'll make the motion that we consider item F as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Hendricks, a second by Ms. Sherry. Discussion? Okay, so again, the reason why I asked for this to be on this agenda item is so that we can establish how we want to go with fiscal year 24, going into the new year so that everybody can adjust their schedules accordingly. I've provided options A through J for consideration based on the workload that staff has and some of the delays we've had that we need to address, either emergencies or other action items that need to be dealt with. That's why I'm having this brought up, so we're not waiting 30 days to have another meeting. If we feel that the tempo is necessary to have it twice a month to make the meeting shorter, and so that we also give the public consideration to be involved in the evening as they've, I guess, voiced in the past. So is there any options that people feel strongly about? And I'll start with Mr. King. I'll take your option and I'll just start jotting down.
So option A is what we have currently in place. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's my choice.
Okay, so option A. Mr. Sherman?
So I agree that we may need to have second meetings a month. I have a second Thursday of the month evening meeting. What is?
Mike?
Mike, I have a second Thursday of the month, evening meeting that I need to attend, and then I also have the CRWA meeting. So those would be dates when I could not, those would be my conflicts.
Okay,
But
so
I believe we should consider multiple meetings a month with the amount of things we have going at the moment.
okay, so which option would you be more inclined to?
Honestly, I can make any of them work, other than the second Thursday in the evenings only. So item I would ask to strike from the options.
Okay,
Item I, option I.
all right, Ms. Sherry?
I also agree that we should split it into two different meetings. We have entirely too much to talk about. Most of these meetings, as you see, it's almost 11 and we're not even halfway through. Most of these meetings are going 4 or 5 hours. If staff is willing to make the accommodations to do it, I would like to split it into two separate meetings. My option would be option E, which would be the first and the third of the month. Simply being that at the first of the month, we discuss, and we don't have to go with my times, but my suggestion would be the first of the month, we do a night meeting so that other public people, other of our ratepayers could attend in the evenings. And we address what we're going to go over for the month at the beginning of the month. So the ratepayers know what we are going to attempt to do for the month. And then the third Thursday, we would do our traditional 9 o'clock in the morning meeting, which would be basically following up where we are on the things we said we were going to do at the beginning of the month. And we're still at the third week of the month. So that still gives us the extra week to the end of the month to make all the accomplishments. So that's just my suggestion. I say option E, with the first meeting being in the evening and the second evening being in the morning.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hendricks?
I am extremely flexible. I do think that we need to have two meetings a month. I don't have any preference for any days specifically. I would be more inclined to option E out of all of the options. I don't particularly like a 6:30 PM start. I would kind of probably like a little bit earlier because our meetings do tend to run long. But and I have faith that staff could stack a meeting to where the third one would be the longest. And then the 6:30 on the first would be just wrapping up some loose ends. Maybe we have some stuff we didn't get to, something simple. So I would be more inclined to E, but again, I'm really fluid. It doesn't really matter to me, but I do think we need two meetings.
Okay, Mr. Robertson?
I am definitely sticking with option A. I don't like the idea of two meetings a month. It's too much of an unnecessary burden on the staff to do two meetings. And the night meetings, if somebody could guarantee we wouldn't be here till 11 o'clock at night, I might think about it. But too many questions get asked in meetings that could be asked ahead of time. So I'm solidly in for right now, option A.
Thank you. Mr. Cooper?
When I decided to run for this board, it was determined what the day and time of the meeting would be, and I've adjusted my schedule accordingly. Currently, my schedule is planned out 4 to 6 months in advance. Making changes to that schedule would be a heavy burden on my schedule. Secondly, the expense that would be added to GVSUD by staff being required to be here for potentially 4 or 5 hours at night after work hours twice a month would be an excessive cost and burden on other members that support this board. I'm absolutely for sticking with the bylaws as written for Thursday of every month, 9 a.m.
Mr. Chairman, may I have a moment to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Um, as far as staff goes, whether y'all decide to have two, one night, day, that doesn't matter to us. However, on the financial side of it, having it on the third Thursday, it does for some months create a burden that we can even get the financials ready in time. By the time we get our bank statements, all the interest statements, and all the invoices that go in that month, we cannot guarantee we'll have a full and accurate financial statement for y'all, which was part of the reason why they did move it to the fourth Thursday so that we could have time to get those financial papers prepared. If a month starts on a Thursday or a Wednesday, we have to have that in the board packets within less than a week. And so we are sometimes very stressed or even unable to actually have a completed financial packet. So if just as a consideration, I just wanted to let y'all know that side of
Thank you.
it.
That's why we're having this discussion right now. So everybody can express their concerns and we put that in the open.
Right, like I said,
So,
one meeting, two meetings, night meetings, day meetings, we can work around that. It's just the timing for the financials.
awesome.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
Chris, I
you.
want to add the bylaws committee has discussed this at great length and we couldn't come to a consensus. And our consensus in our committee meetings was to highlight that section and have a board discussion to decide this. So
Well, the reason why I'm bringing this up now is because staff asked me for next year's calendar and I wanted to at least give the board the opportunity to talk about it so that we can then direct staff as to how they're going to create the agenda for the year, so that we can either stick this route or change as necessary. But I at least wanted to provide that opportunity. So,
Mr. Chairman, and just as clarification, I know some board members have said option A is what we're currently doing. We are currently doing, I believe, option F, which is the fourth Thursday,
thank you.
just
That's
for
correct.
clarification.
Yep. Option F is what you guys
Yeah,
are,
yeah.
yeah, that's fine. Yep. Noted.
Can I just say one more thing?
Go ahead.
The intention of splitting the meetings is not for us to have 2 5-hour meetings. Our intention is to try to split it into 2, maybe 2.5-hour meetings. We could cut the agenda in half and discuss a lot of the topics 2 times a month instead of this giant agenda that takes anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. So the whole intentions of splitting it is to not have 5 hours and 5 hours, but to make 2 smaller meetings. And city council does the same thing. So, I mean, you can address different things at different times and cut it into 2 smaller meetings.
I guess lastly, if we have, if the two meetings is gonna, Mr. Cooper had a very, very valid point. When we all decided that we wanted to be on the board, it was one meeting. It was scheduled the fourth Thursday of the month. It was something that we could put on our calendars. And I do see Mr. Cooper's, point on that. And it is a very realistic point. And I'd like to put out there that, again, I am super fluid with it. But he does have a very valid point. And I think we do need to take that in consideration when a board member is looking at joining, even in the future. They would be, are they going to change the meetings up on me? Am I going to be able to have my schedule this way? It could create some turmoil down the line.
Thank you. All right, so,
Mr. Frias,
ahead.
Mr. Cooper, I want to direct a question your way. If the meeting times were potentially adjusted at a date certain in the future when your work schedule would, which is very important. That makes sense what I'm saying. If the adjustment was made after a duration, would that adjust your opinion?
Well, typically, the only adjustments that we've made to the board meeting times is for the holidays. And we move them up to accommodate Christmas and New Year's. And those usually are not or Thanksgiving and Christmas, I apologize. And those I'm able to plan far enough out in advance to be able to put a schedule together. But I've already filled my schedule for June, July. And whether it's CRWA, which I have 2 meetings a month on Mondays, and the construction committee, and this board meeting, this is an unpaid position that I happily volunteer for. And I take that commitment very, very seriously. I did not run for the board to be able to say, I'm going to change the schedule. I ran because I said I can meet the schedule.
What if we kept the fourth one like we're doing right now that you already have on your calendar, but we added a second one that would be in the evening when you're not working?
Our bylaws allow you to set up a special meeting at any point in time by the request of two different members. You're more than willing to, I mean, it's a legal option to form another meeting. There's absolutely no way that you can guarantee the length of a meeting. And at a time when we're looking at an extraneous, huge amount of expense coming up to this board, you're talking about adding another huge expense by making staff work more hours, longer hours, and take more preparation time for this board meeting.
The staff said that they're okay with it. The only reason we're trying to do this is because the ratepayers want to be able to attend the meetings.
Oh,
And
come
not-
on.
Well, I mean, that,
We've had 2 meetings at night. Nobody
There-
showed. And they were publicized. Nobody showed. I would love for this room to be full, but I can't get them to show up. They don't even zoom in and watch.
well, it is, most people are working this time of the day, and even if you're working, you can't really be on Zoom to watch a meeting, where most people, if they wanted to attend the meeting, would be more likely to do it after work.
But they're
Okay.
not even watched.
Either way, again,
Yeah.
I allowed everybody to say their piece. I appreciate everybody's comments about it. So we already had the motion. We have a second. We have the opinions of what everybody would like corrected accordingly. Again, I wanted to give y'all time to talk about it, and that's it. We're moving on. So
By the motion.
the motion was to even talk about it. That was it. So we have a motion and a second. At this point, roll call, and then we'll just move on. Or do we want to table this until the bylaw committee does their,
Well, the bylaw committee was punting to the
Gonna
board
bring
as a
it
whole.
back to us.
all right. So at this point,
Again, specify, clarify what are we voting on
So-
specifically?
so that's
We
what
have
I'm gonna-
multiple
I'm
options.
going to clarify real quick. So based on what we're learning today, I would recommend that the motion gets retracted or directed to the bylaws committee to take what we've discussed into consideration and come up with a solution to present to the board when the bylaws committee is ready to present their findings or their
I
recommendation.
can,
That-
I'll amend my motion to table this indefinitely. No?
I think we voiced an opinion.
Okay.
Well,
Or just
again, do
three
we
of-
let the bylaws, because they at the bylaws committee, they were saying that they were gonna have us.
I
Talk
understand.
about it.
You've got a motion and a
So-
second on the table, so we either have to
So-
vote or withdraw at the end of
That's
the
why
motion.
I asked is, do you either withdraw your request, or do you amend your motion back to saying the bylaw committee handle it? And then take what we've learned today.
And
in
Mr. Sherman
consideration.
said the bylaws is punted to us.
That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. So,
No.
No. no, so
I-
we'll do this. Let's do a roll call. And then at that point, it automatically defaults back to the committee to deal with.
bylaws committee.
All right, so
And
So-
again, John, what is the,
What are we
what are we
voting
voting on? There's got to be a specific option.
Are we voting on whether we're gonna change the meetings?
yes, that was either to vote to change the
Voting to
meetings,
change the bylaws.
the
to change
bylaws
the
to
meeting.
change the meetings. So start with you, Mr. King.
No.
Mr. Sherman.
Yes.
Sherry,
Yes.
myself, yes.
Yes.
Bob,
No.
Mr. Cooper.
No,
All right, motion
Defeated.
fails. All right.
you.
Thank you for meaningful discussion. All right, let's see, we are at item number G, discuss the previously approved GVCD board meeting date, January 25th, and take action as necessary. So this request was asked of me by Ms. Sherry, who has a surgery during that week. I told her I would have the board consider, because now she's getting involved. I don't want her to miss too many meetings. She has a lot to learn and catch up on. At this time, is there a specific date, Ms. Sherry, that you would be available for either pre-surgery or post?
So I have to have a hip replacement done on January the 23rd. Our meeting for January is January 25th. I wouldn't even be able to Zoom or Teams or anything into it, probably due to I'll be out of it with a lot of pain medication. I would like to request of the board if there is any possible way that we could have January's meeting, maybe the Thursday before my surgery.
Could you do after?
Or even after, it just can't be 2 days after. Even the
Okay.
following week, even the following Thursday, but just not 2
With
days
the
after.
30th or 31st? And that's what I was thinking, financials.
We're waiting on 2
We're waiting for 2 months and then we gotta have, the 18th is pushing December's financials to be ready. So the 30th or 31st, would those be of consideration on you?
Yes.
Okay, the 30th or 31st of January. Mr. King, either of those?
A conference in Las Vegas.
Okay, Mr. Sherman? Okay. Are, going to Mr. Hendricks, would you be available the 30th or 31st?
Yeah, I'm available
Okay,
31st.
Mr. Robertson, would you be available 30th or 31st? That's gonna be at the end of January. 30th and 31st, they'll be ready. Mr. Cooper? You wouldn't be available. Okay, so at this time, Mr. King has stated he cannot. Mr. Cooper has stated he cannot. Ms. Sherry, we're gonna have to keep the dates
Just
as
consider it
is.
an excused absence. It's not a problem.
So,
I would
Okay.
absolutely consider.
You won't be able to Zoom? You won't be able to Zoom at all?
pretty sure she's gonna be knocked
I
out
think
with
it would
all
be
the
pretty
pain.
knocked out.
So-
Yeah, you're not gonna want.
But nevertheless, again,
We can have the
We-
meeting in the hospital room. maybe.
I don't know if we can fit
I can
everybody.
attempt to log in and just see where it goes and,
Just book
and
that
just
chapel.
put a dot, not my face, so you can't see me.
Okay, so again, thank y'all for y'all's consideration.
Thank you.
sharing. Thank you. All right, going to item H, review the contract with Texas Solution Group and take action as necessary. So, recently, I believe Texas Solution Group's contract was in our packet. Mr. Sherman, this was requested by you. Let's see. here.
H is
Yeah.
on H.
Yeah, I apologize, board. I wasn't paying attention. I gave everybody a copy, just in full disclosure, of a memo sent to me by, Jeff Heckler with Texas Solutions Group. God, I apologize. They're offering a reduction in cost of services from $6,500 per month to $4,000 per month. I just printed the email and gave it to you for your consideration.
Thank you for giving that to everybody. Has everybody had time to read the email that was sent to Mr. Cooper? Everybody good? Okay, so at this time, Mr. Sherman, you had some concerns you wanted to bring up.
Yes, so before last month's board meeting, I was approached by outside people within our region that pointed out that a specific House bill was passed that we were given a report that they had, quote, killed. It was a surprise to me. I didn't understand what they were talking about. I argued with them because I was told it was not going to pass, and lo and behold, it was passed. So I'm pretty disappointed that we didn't even get a report on that after I spoke to Philip about it and asked him some questions. It was my understanding that Texas Solutions Group was aware that the particular bill had passed, and they still did not put a report together regarding that when I specifically inquired about it. So based on that, is why I brought this up. And in the email, they say somewhere in here that some of the board members do not see the value of legislative representation. I disagree with that. I agree that legislative representation is important. I think that the board needs to be listened to by our paid representation. And be truthful and open and honest with us. And I don't feel that that was the services that we received last month. When I raised a specific question in advance, they were aware of it, and we still didn't get Texas Solutions Group.
Mr. Sherman, would you feel better if we got more updates from them?
I mean, they send us something. Last month, I actually went through and counted the words
Mhm.
and divided it by their monthly cost, and I figured out how many dollars per word we paid them. And it
But if
was.
they came here monthly or bi-monthly and gave us a current in-person report, would
I
that,
don't think in person or a full detailed report, I don't think it matters to have them drive down here and,
well, there's always going to be questions. You
Right.
can,
you know,
to that.
A Zoom is adequate if it, to
Mhm.
your point. I don't feel we were given honest, open, full disclosure of what they knew in our report for what we're paying them. I don't agree that we don't need representation. If we do something different, we would probably need to go find somebody different. But I'm not satisfied with the performance of
Yep.
this particular outfit.
My only concern is coming down the pike, the state passed a whole big chunk of money for rural water districts. They would probably be key in help us get in line to get some of that, because that's not only loan money, that's grant money. And coming
Right, I
up in the
think-
next
I
3
think-
years, we can sure use it.
I think representation, some type of lobbyist is key.
Mhm.
Doesn't have to be this group, doesn't have to be a different group. That's why I put it on here for discussion.
Yeah.
This is my opinion. I didn't want to be talking to y'all outside of the meeting about it. This is why I wanted to have this discussion, so.
Does CRWA have legislative lobbyists on their end?
Yes.
They're the same
They
one.
do? Are they the same ones?
Yes, they are, aren't they?
I can't answer 100% to the affirmative, but there is an organization that represents them. My concern with any lobbyist has been and continues to be the fact that you can't measure their success. You can't on a spreadsheet determine how much or how little they bring to the table. At the end of the day, the term that's always been bannered around this board is having a seat at the table. The thing that a lobbyist grants us is a seat at the table, ensuring that we do have a voice in Austin, ensuring that our concerns are being heard. And to Mr. Sherman's point, making sure that we know what they're doing and how much of it they're doing for us. So I'm 100% against removing a lobbyist from representing GVSUD with a seat at the table. I think the cost reduction is a fair assessment in at least an interim basis to see as we move forward, maybe into the next budgetary process, to determine if this is a cost that we should cut entirely. But we've got the money for it. We've got the budget. Considering the latest legislative actions that have been taken, I think it's important that our voice is heard regarding water and wastewater, considering what's going on in the state of Texas right now. So I support Texas Solutions Group. I support their work for us, and I'd like them to continue.
Hendricks?
I'm kind of biased. I think lobbyists have ruined our political system, and they have turned it to a pay to win or pay to play. If you don't pay a lobbyist to get what you want, then it's not going to happen. And that is the way our political, from Congress on down, that is the way it is. The lobbyist make the money, and the lobbyist pay the money, and the lobbyists get politicians to do what the lobbyists want. There are enough, I believe, enough smaller SUDs that are being represented by these lobbyists that I do not believe that it is in GVSUD's best interest to continue to pay a lobbyist firm. And they dropped their rate by $30,000 just by seeing our agenda. So that alone tells me what they value our money as, that they would take 30K right off the top immediately. Sorry. That said, especially with this pump and haul, this bill that they were so happy that was actually going to be killed because it was number 4,000 something. The Senate never should have gotten to it. And yet it was resurrected in the 7th hour, and now the pump and haul has been killed, which actually I agree with, but that's neither here nor there. So my personal opinion is definitely no, we should not renew their contract.
Any other comments? Once, twice? Nope. Okay, so at this time, do we have any action to be taken on?
I'd like to make a
No.
motion to accept Texas Solutions Group reduced invoice cost to $4,000 per month.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Cooper. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by
But
Mr.
the caveat, and I don't know if this needs to be included in the motion, but I think was alluded to when we get it into the budgetary process, maybe we reevaluate this.
I'll add to the amendment, I'll add to my motion to be reviewed in August 2024. Is that appropriate? Make a motion to restate the motion. I'd like to make a motion to accept Texas Solutions Group for the new contracted amount of $4,000 a month to be reviewed in August of 2024.
And I'll second that.
So I have the motion. I have the second by Mr. Robertson. We'll do a roll call vote. Mr. King?
Aye.
No.
No.
I say no. Mr. Hendricks?
No,
Aye.
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 So motion failed to pass. So do I have another motion?
I'll make a motion to terminate Texas Solutions Group per the outline in their contract, the existing contract. Period.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Is there an effective date on that?
It's a 30-day notice,
30 day?
30
notice?
We
day.
can,
Or is there a date that you have in mind?
I'm gonna, the intent is now and 30 days moving forward, but that's a good point. Philip will work this to where, I don't know what their billing cycle is, but in line with their billing cycle and the requirement, the notice requirement in the contract.
Okay.
Do I need to outline tied to their billing cycle, or is that adequate?
I think we understand.
I mean, if you give me a motion, then staff will start and we'll get
So I'll-
we'll get a
Steve, that's a
notice
good catch.
drafted up
I'll
and then
add
it'll be
that,
effective 30 days after.
I'll amend my motion to terminate Texas Solution Group per the existing contract in line with billing cycle.
Okay,
Will you at least consider an option to, and this is before the table, so
go ahead.
an option to, not in the same motion, but direct staff to go find another?
We have an item U that I'm already eyeballing. Something in the future.
Because I feel very uncomfortable without having some kind of lobbyist representing us, because
You can
we're one of the
you
bigger
can
suds
incorporate
in the
that into your
state.
motion. If you wanted to, you could do an RFQ with an RFQ consideration for. Okay,
All right.
all right, that's your motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Hendricks, I believe you
Second.
seconded it. Okay, Mr. King?
Yes.
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 No,
No.
Okay, motion passed 4-3. Philip, take care of that. Thank you. All right, due to time constraints of other individuals that are currently here, we are going to move to executive session under item Q, R, and S. At this time is 11:31, and we will break for executive session. All right, we are coming into open session at 1:15. We are jumping down to item T. Is there anything that needs to be discussed from executive session under item T? Barry, guys, no? Okay. Go on that. All right, so we are going to move to items K and L, because I do know Graham has a time crunch as well. So, Mr. Moore?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Again, for the record, I'm Graham Moore with the Alliance Regional Water Authority. I hope you excuse me, I'm gonna leave my phone up here. Our board meeting is happening at 1 o'clock. I didn't really expect us to be having a conflict, but it is what it is. I think this is the most important place for me to be. So I was here before you, I guess, just a few weeks ago where we discussed what I was going to be coming back with, which are the two action items we are seeking your approval of today. The first is approval of contract amendment number 1 between the Canyon Regional Water Authority and the 3 special utility districts that participate in the Alliance Water Project: Green Valley, Crystal Clear, and County Line. And then the second action item would be approval of the actual bond anticipation note itself. Basically, it's a resolution authorizing our board to move forward with the issuance of the ban. I did have a couple of slides. If we have that available, I'll try and keep that relatively brief. While that's being pulled up, I have started making the rounds. Went to Canyon Regional Water Authority's board meeting on Monday night, where they took up the same contract amendment. They also had to amend their contract with us. Both of those items did prevail. And they also approved the ban itself. So that's moving forward. Tonight, we are got the Crystal Clear meeting, and then County Lines meeting is Monday night. City of Butte has already passed. Next Tuesday night, we've got Kyle and San Marcos on the same night. So we're trying to move through this process. If everything is approved, then we would look at closing a week from today on December 21st. So
David, I believe David, you looking for it? Okay, thank you.
simply, and I believe the information's in your packet, that the contract amendment is a real targeted amendment. It adds section 3.08 to the existing contract. It's the first amendment to that contract, and it simply allows the use of a bond anticipation note. Previously, we've used revenue bonds, and we intend to do that into the future, but our contract did not contemplate the use of this financial instrument. And out of an abundance of caution to make sure that we can refinance that through the SWIFT program next year and get the lower interest rates, our bond counsel recommended that we do the amendment to the agreement so that we don't have any issues when that arises. And so that's the reason we're requesting the amendment to the contract itself. So that's the first action item. And then moving into the second action item, the bond anticipation note itself. We have worked with Wells Fargo Bank, and they provided their final financial documents to us as of December 5th. And so again, it's a total principal of $46 million. Green Valley Sud's share is about $4.9 million. The interest rate that is guaranteed for that is a 4.72% interest rate. And so the total interest for the total 46 million is slightly under $2 million in anticipated interest. Green Valley's share of that would be $211,000 of that. And so we are, again, I think I mentioned this last time I was here, we are still working with the Water Development Board to also try and include the interest payment in our upcoming SWIFT loan so that no payment would actually be due in November 2024. We factor that into that loan. So once we close on the SWIFT, the 46 million and potentially the interest payment will be refinanced in that over a 30-year period like we've done in the past with the debt issuances for Green Valley.
So you'd mentioned that last comment at the CRWA meeting, and it didn't register in my mind. But you're suggesting we have the opportunity to Green Valley's portion, the $211,000, to roll that ban loan interest into the principal with the SWIFT funding, and then pay interest on top of the interest for 30 years.
That's potential, or it could be paid outright. It's an option that we would have to work out whichever way the entities would want to move forward with that.
And who would determine whether we would refinance the negative equity in our old car into the loan of our new car?
Well, it'd be dependent on the CRWA. We would issue a separate series for each of the participants. So in our case, the participants are the 3 cities in CRWA. So it'd be among the entities within CRWA would need to determine how that would be paid. I could envision a situation where Green Valley, if you chose, would say, we're interested in just paying our interest share now. And then the others may choose to roll that in and would have to pick up the cost of that into the refinancing that would be done.
And then I have since your last visit with us, my understanding that our existing contract, that take or pay, if the way it's structured is if we chose not to participate in the 4.7 million of overages, we would be at risk of losing all of our access to the water. So that's not a viable option if that's correct.
I believe that is correct. We have not, fortunately or unfortunately, we have not gone down that path to investigate exactly what that would look like from a,
And I don't want to go down.
and if one
I-
entity were
For the
to,
rest of the directors, I think we're obligated to pay our share of the whole project because this next segment of the line actually goes northward.
correct.
So it doesn't serve us, but I agree that we have to pay our portion of the 4.7. The existing contract doesn't allow for the bond anticipation note.
Correct.
So the portion that I don't particularly care for, the $211,000 of additional interest, it doesn't provide us direct service. That's the portion that I don't terribly agree with. If we don't agree to the modification to allow for the bond anticipation note, we just stick with our existing deal. We then pay our additional 4.7 portion and we stick to our original agreement. Is that correct?
That would be an option. Part of what we would need to understand is then that 4.7 million, how would that be paid for?
And Philip, I'd tasked you with to just magic $4.7 million into the budget, over the next X number of years. I don't know if we figured out exactly how we would do it, but I agree we would have to cut or increase, rate somehow to cover that. Would you generally agree with that, Philip?
I mean, yes, in general, but once again, this staff, we did our initial budget, we're projecting something for 20 years out, 30 years out, however much for this 4.7, we don't have any answer for that directly as of today.
I'm sorry, when you started this, did you say it was going to be 4.9 or is it 4.7?
It's 4.89 million.
Okay, so since the last time we met, it's already gone up $200,000.
The actual core principal amount has not changed. When I went back and verified.
But the amount that you want from us has gone up $200,000 from the last time we talked.
That's interesting.
The core principle has not changed. When I went back and reviewed the exact percentages, Green Valley share is a little bit more than 33.33%. So when I calculated it, and we calculated it based on the percentage in the agreement between Green Valley and CRWA, that's what generated that slight difference. However, the interest rate was also lower than I had brought to you. We had expected a 5% interest rate. So with the 4.72% interest rate, we're actually on the interest share, we're down slightly. Previous estimate was 235,000 and we're at 211,000 now. So that has actually decreased a little bit from what I presented to you a few weeks ago.
Is that $4 million building for 3 employees still on this?
As of now, that the building is still in, we will have conversations with our board as we go through scoping what that building looks like. We've heard the concerns of this board about that. And so that's something that we'll take under advisement as we work towards actually designing what that building will look like. That's a high level planning estimate at this point in time.
So potentially GVSUD is looking at a rate increase to pay for somebody else's building. If we wanted to just throw that out there.
It's a
It's a little
building.
early to make that determination.
Well, the initial contract, when it came up way back when, the building was going to be included, and now the building isn't included, and they're coming specifically for money, approximately 4 million, specifically on this additional amount, which our share, I guess we could take, 33% of 4 million, that our ratepayers are going to be paying for a building for 3 to possibly 6 employees.
It's about 10%. You're 33% of 30%.
Okay, so we're doing VA math now. Okay.
So it's about roughly 10%. Again, we are providing a service to Green Valley. We are providing water to Green Valley. And while $4 million is a significant amount of money, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. We're going to do our best to bring that dollar value in lower, but we also need facilities in order to operate to meet so that we can provide reliable service, which is a valuable, I think, effort for everybody. And so that's why that's included in that. And our board has directed us to include that and move forward with that.
James, I'm going to jump on you, interrupt you here. The existing meetings, board meetings that y'all have, how do y'all conduct those?
We conduct those primarily virtually. We are in 3 counties, so we have the ability, as long as our chair is in a principal place where the public can attend, then we can do those virtually. We also, about quarterly, we meet in person. And so we have a plate where we will try and find a location within a sponsor's entity, one of the city halls, Kenyon Regionals we've met at in the past, try and find a location to host those board meetings and try and conduct those. So we've tried to work with our different ways around to make those meetings happen efficiently.
I have, so at the CRWA meeting, it was a little bit different understanding, at least from me. I believe you stated that the SWIFT funding window opens in February of 24. Was that accurate?
I'm sorry, no. So the
Okay.
window just opened on the SWIFT applications. I got an email on that. I believe it was Friday of last week. The initial abridged application window closes February 1st of 2024. So you have to have your initial application in to the Water Development Board by February 1st of 2024. And then if you are moved on to the next stage, you submit a more detailed application to them, the financial application. But so the earliest we've ever been able to actually take down the money is in November of that year. So it's about a 9-month process from the time you submit that initial application until you can access the funds through the SWIFT
So
program.
did we apply during the window in 2023?
We did not. We were not aware of the exact amount of the overages or what that was going to look like until after that window had closed, until after February 1st of 2020.
So at the CRWA meeting, when I inquired about how did this happen, who are the directors from appointments from CRWA up to ARWA, the list was given. Mr. Allen was one of the appointments. I inquired to the group, how long have we known about this? And Miss Frankie stated that she had known for quite a while and she had been keeping her board up to date on it. So it wasn't a surprise to others. Yes, and I tried to reach out to her yesterday and speak to her in a little bit more detail offline. I was unable to, but she said quite a while. Is quite a while February of this year, or
It was,
I guess I'm trying to determine if it's worth $211,000 that we couldn't get it done in February of this year, but we are going to be able to get it done in February of 24. And then you said, if we're selected to move forward, we have another step. So the if is my concern, because if we go forward with this modification and a ban, and then we borrow money, a lot of money that Green Valley has to come up with somewhere beyond the money I agree we need to pay, which we have to come up with somewhere. If we don't get it we missed a deadline, we made a mistake on the application, we just didn't get selected. There's a variety of things that could happen. Then we have to re-up a ban or I believe you stated the backup is to go to the open market at a higher rate. So if those are possibilities, I'm very uncomfortable pressing forward with this plan. So make me
I
make
think
me
you've
feel
got-
better.
Well,
about it.
that's fair. I think you've had a lot of questions there, so I'm going to try and address them all. In terms of our board and the discussions we've had with our board of directors, that discussion started in April or May timeframe that this was coming, that we were on projections based on previous cost and some other easement acquisitions that we were finalizing. We saw there was going to be a shortfall, and so we started projecting that was going to be a need. And we had discussions with them routinely about options that we looked at for ways to deal with that $46 million. And so
Was that
that's
made
been-
available to GVSUD back then?
I'm sorry.
Was that information made available to GVSUD?
It was made available to our board of directors, which Pat Allen was.
Was
one of
Pat
the board
Allen
of
was on
directors.
that board?
Yes.
And he did not tell.
He did not tell.
So, so that discussion has been going on now for about 8 months or so at our board level, and has been a routine agenda item on our meetings for discussion. And we've received feedback and direction from our board as we've continued forward. In terms of the interest, what I will step back and point out is, had we been able to get into the SWIFT program in 2020 and 2023 and gotten into that window before February 1st, we would have closed on money this year and there would have been an interest payment already next year, which at a 4% interest rate, which is what we closed on the previous one, that would have meant GB SUD's interest is about $168,000. So there is still a difference because the interest rates are different, but it's about
And it's
44,000.
interest, it's interest against the actual principal. It's not interest to stretch for a year. So
Right.
you're correct, but I disagree with that it's an apples to apples comparison.
Well, and I think there's some additional risk of waiting for additional financing options in that inflation continues to tick along and we run the risk of costs going up for the projects that we've noted. And we have members on that site pipeline, County Line Special Utility District and City of Kyle, chief among them, that are anxious for water, just as all of our entities are, that the growth
And
that continues to
I'm
come.
ready for you there. So in our board packet for many months, we get a water inventory table. Gary, thank you. I love this table and I refer to it all the time. We were supposed to receive water through this project in 23 and we're running out of 23. And I'm not mad that the entire project has delays, has overruns in cost and duration. It happens. But the entire concept, the entire overall project has incurred delays.
Yes.
It's not tied to, we just barely missed by 2 months the SWIFT funding. The overall project schedule has shifted slightly. And these are the numbers that we've been working off of for years, the dates when we expect. And I think verbally, we've been told we will receive water in 24 sometime through the southern reach of the pipeline project.
That's correct. We're on track for the pipelines that would deliver the water are scheduled to be completed in May of 2024. So that would make water available to Green Valley. And you're right, there's been delays.
And we're not building a birdhouse. This is an enormous, exceedingly complex project. So I'm not upset that there's 4.8 million or 4.9 almost million in overages. That's going to be our portion. And there's a bit of a delay. I don't see the need. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You were continuing.
That's understandable. I will say though, my point on if we wait for other options, that's going to exacerbate the problem of delays that we have had on the overall program. Don't deny those. That will hurt those entities that are looking for this water, and we still risk the additional interest, or excuse me, the inflation on those costs for the construction of the work that's going to undergo. And we don't know. I can't quantify for you today what that may look like, but inflation has been significant over the last 4 years, and that's a significant risk, I think, for us to
And to
consider.
that point, you're ready to issue those projects for bid today.
We have segment C is out for bid currently.
And then what are the other projects that need to?
The other two projects are the administrative building, which we've had a little bit of discussion on, and then our north inline elevated storage tank, which is at about 60% complete on design. And that's something we can move forward with in the next 3 to 4 months and have design complete and ready to issue that out to bid. The segment C pipeline is our critical component to be able to get water delivered. We can do that without the elevated tank being online. So that was our focus, was to get that tank, the pipeline in place. But segments, the north inline elevated storage tank is shortly behind that. And as I mentioned, at this point on the admin building, we need an admin building out there. Our program team and engineers have given us a real rough estimate of 4 million to complete that. We think it's high. We're going to work as we can to bring that down and look at ways to expand that in the future. But I don't have a better number than that for you today. Look, this is painful for everybody that's having to pay for this. These same discussions at every meeting I go to, that they're having the same concerns. And so I appreciate the information in that. I wish I had a different story for you, telling you that, hey, we had the ribbon cutting, 3 months ago and water's being delivered and hell, we were under budget. I would love to be the bearer of that news. But the reality is, in order to get this project online and get water delivered to all the customers, our board has evaluated this over the last 7 or 8 months, and they've decided this is the best way to move forward for this. It's painful on all the end users, ratepayers.
And that decision needs our concurrence.
It needs your concurrence, absolutely, as part of this. And if we want to investigate what that means, if a non-concurrence happens or a denial happens, then we're gonna have to evaluate what that looks like. And I don't have an answer for you today as to what that looks like.
Well, at the CRWA meeting, that was asked if, I believe Mr. Gibbs from Cibolo inquired, he didn't like the fact that the three SUDs had not approved this before it went up the line to CRWA. So he asked the question, or maybe it was Mr. Foose, I forget. What happens if the SUDs don't approve this? And I believe your response was, well, this just dies, then we don't issue the bond anticipation note.
Well, and I think that's most likely the case, but there may be a chance that we would try and move forward without the CRWA portion or figure out some other way to get that moving. Because there are still those that want to finance it and get the project moving. But I don't have an answer as to what that would look like. So my expectation at this point is that it would just die and until we figure out a different way to do that.
Because in general, and I'm going to assume Pat did a great job fighting for Green Valley as the ARWA appointment. I don't know if you'll remember, but I remember I always asked throughout all the phases of this project, what is the sequence of these projects? When are we going to get our water? And lo and behold, fortunately for us, the wells to the treatment plant, to the pipeline, to the booster pump station and ground storage tank and the southern reach down to CRWA's Lake Dunlap facility were in the first series.
Right.
So I'm going to assume that our representative to ARWA helped us get water first, potentially first. And on the back end, delays are going to affect others. My responsibility is to Green Valley's ratepayers. I don't wish ill on any of the other member entities to the north, but it's very difficult for me to spend $211,000 of interest when we've got plenty of bills to pay so that others can get 4 or 5 months, money in place by the time you're ready to bid earlier. That's a lot of money per month to serve a different district.
I appreciate Mr. Sherman's position on this, and in an effort to be fully clear, CRWA approved this measure 16-2 with the 2 assenting votes being Mr. Sherman and Mr. Gibbs. So I feel the financial pressure that a decision like this brings. In the same token, if we're in for a penny, we're in for a pound on this project. And this is a project that is necessary for our future, not for today, but for our future water needs throughout Green Valley and its regions. And we've agreed to partner with ARWA in making sure that our future residents will be supplied with water at a fair rate. I know that doesn't seem logical right now, considering the cost increases. But if we don't approve this, I'm concerned that we lose our stake that we've already got in this. We potentially lose our interest in this facility, and we harm our residents in the future. That's my concern.
And
Alan, what I'm hearing out of this too is some time ago, you anticipated the cost overrun, and we either act today and you can project what the costs will be. If we don't act today, I guarantee it's going to cost more. So you're in for a dime, you're in for a dollar. We need to be there.
I have a question real quick. So as far as the overage, 46 million, in relation to the total project, what is the percentage of that?
That is about 15%.
So 15% in overage. Okay. Obviously, a lot of variables and factors that came up with that. Thank you. Is there any discussion at your board level that talks about how we could then receive some level of compensation for our, I guess, 4.8 million investment into the overages? Is there any mechanism in place or a rate reduction or something to where this 211,000 interest is somehow absorbed where we're not feeling the brunt of that? Is that even being talked about on the back end, or to possibly be considered?
I'd say there's limited options for that. The one piece that we are reviewing is that we have collected through our previous bond payments. We do have some excess in those bond accounts that we're looking at. When it comes time to pay the interest on that, if that's in November or if that changes, of applying that excess that we have built up towards that to reduce the burden. But I don't know that it would be enough to fully offset that amount. what I'll say is everybody is in proportionally for this. So everybody has an increase. So there's not, somebody doesn't have some excess that we can offset somebody else's increase. It's all got to be an increase to everybody proportionally to their investment.
John, the 4.8, that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm defending you here. Where the overage is based on an old opinion of probable cost for this project that is many years old.
2017
Yeah.
when those estimates.
Inflation based
Right.
on, yeah, we're in a
Right,
different.
we're in
place.
30%
So,
plus inflation rate.
The 4.8 is, yeah, I think so. It's reasonable. And I agree that our existing contract compels us to pay our fair share of the total contract or the total project cost, including this overage. I think we're compelled with that under our existing contract. Now, to Cooper's point, if we don't participate in the bond anticipation note, we just stick with our existing contract. We have a contract through CRWA with ARWA to supply a specified amount of water to us. We have an existing agreement. I like that agreement. It seems fine to me. That agreement doesn't allow for bond anticipation notes. Did I state that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay. So Steve, I disagree, well, and answer Steve's question. If we don't participate in this bond anticipation note, is there any risk to our participation under the existing contract? We have an existing agreement in place.
I can't answer that for you today.
Shan, do you know offhand? So my question was, we have an existing contract in place and there was a copy of it in the CRWA.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm familiar with the contract.
So we have an existing contract in place. There's a request for a modification to that contract.
Correct.
If both parties don't agree to modify the contract, the existing contract remains valid. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So if the existing contract remains valid, Steve's concerns of losing access to the water supplied or the concern of, any loss of our previous investment, in my understanding, as long as we pay our portion of the overage, which I repeat, I think we need to pay, our existing arrangement remains.
I think that second caveat or the caveat is important there again, is we need to understand because we're trying to get the projects moving is then if you choose not to participate in the ban and
How do you pay for
vote
it?
against that, how is that going to be paid for? And when is that funding going to be available?
And that 4.9 is what I tasked Philip with magically figuring out, in just a matter of a couple weeks. I don't think we have an answer to that yet, but we have to find an answer to that number. I think we can go without the ban interest and put that interest money toward this money.
And again, the risk there is then it delays the entirety of the projects and inflation risks and completion risks to the other entities that have helped fund the pipelines, the treatment plant, everything coming this direction. So they're harming, effectively, they've helped get the water here earlier. It would be harming them.
I don't think it's harming them to stay within our existing contract.
It's harming them because of the inability to move the projects forward and causing further delays.
And would you agree that we would be harming other entities by remaining within our existing contract?
That's kind of a loaded question and it's not really a legal question.
Harm is a legal term, is it not?
No, it's simple cost sharing. If we don't pay our costs, someone else is gonna have to.
Well, and I want to be clear, I didn't mean it as a legal
Yeah, no,
term.
no,
I'm not trying to be an attorney and say, well, under section what, I'm just saying in general. And I can tell you specifically, those entities are going to feel like, that they've helped fund and pay to get projects built coming this direction. And
that-
they're going to feel hard put upon if the return isn't done as well.
And I 100%.
Kind of like building a building for 4 people that cost $4 million. You see,
I 100% agree that we need to pay our fair share of the overage, which is now 4.89 million. We absolutely have to do that. If we refuse to do that, we wouldn't be complying with our existing contract, as I understand it. But this other is not within our existing contract. I can't very well ask you and say, hey, GVC raised our power rates. My power bill at my house is high. Help me out, pay part of my power bill. Well, we have no agreement for that. Maybe that's not a perfect
I'm struggling
correlation.
with that analogy.
I was hoping that would land better, but you follow what I'm saying. We have a deal, we have an agreement with those other parties that we have to pay that 4.89 million of overage. If we refuse to, which I absolutely am not suggesting that, we would be harming them, in my opinion. This other is extra. So I think my
Real
point is
quick.
well made.
Total dollar amount of Green Valley's investment to this whole project is what? Sorry,
July.
I'm
That's
not
a,
sure if you know off the top of your head.
That,
The total dollar investment that we are obligated per the contract is what? What is? Well, because I know we've had substantial debt obligations over the past few years,
Seen
but
it
I
with-
want to know for this specific project, where does Green Valley lie?
well, I'm not sure if you mean
Ballpark.
this project,
So,
this
as our share within
of
the
the
project,
whole Alliance Water system.
what is
it's
our
about $36 million. is the-
36
the
million?
total. That's with this additional overage amount that we're
Okay, so
contemplating. today.
32 roughly is
Rough.
what we've already committed to bonds or any other expenses incurred, which is obviously our debt obligation over everything that we currently owe. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's about a third of our debt obligation, almost, if not the majority of it. So 5 million for 211,000 interest to continue.
And to complete on schedule.
Do we know when we
Completely
are going to
scheduled.
be
We're behind
receiving our water?
Green Valley, the
This is, puts it further behind. is what
Oh,
I'm saying.
he was talking. Hold on.
for Green Valley, the pipeline contracts are let, they're actually in the field building those. We are tracking that. We expect those will be online and ready in May of this year. So Green
So this
Valley would
coming-
start receiving its water in May of 2024. Sorry, May of 20, I said this year, May of
Yeah,
2024.
24. Okay.
The completion of the projects that are included in this overage, it's about a 2-year construction window to do the pipeline segment. And so that's looking at late, very end of 2025 for that completion as well.
So the other two SUDs, they haven't brought this up yet, have they?
I've gone around and made the presentation that I made to you 3 weeks ago. Again, they have it on their agendas for tonight and for Monday night. There were questions asked. I would say they were, the questions weren't quite along the same lines as this group has had. And so my expectation is that they will pass that.
So here's a question. Could we go in front of the board, or could the board conditionally approve it based on the other SUDs conditional approval? Because I believe that the other SUDs would potentially need a way out, so to speak. If we voted to approve this, that would effectively backdoor them. They would pretty much have no choice at that point. But if we have it conditional on their approval and they are conditionally approving it as well, you could have 3 SUDs that just flat are saying, no, we don't believe this, and then you guys are gonna have to rework. Is that correct?
Well, if you conditionally approve it, then it would be approved if all the others have approved. So I'm not sure.
That's
I
yeah,
the
it-
understand.
premise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah, I think
that's
you
the
could-
premise.
We would not have a problem with you conditionally approving it because I can tell you they're going to approve it. We've had the meetings, we've been there, and County Line in particular is one of the entities that is desperate for the water. So I'm 100% confident on that aspect of it, but I certainly understand your point. And if you want to conditionally approve it just in case something happens, then by all means, I think that's a fair way to go with it. I don't think that would be a problematic at all.
All right. So appreciate that. Thank you, James, for that consideration as well. I would let this get going. We got other things to deal with as well, and I know Graham has to get going. So do we need to make a motion today?
Yes. we
Okay,
There's
so
2 different action items.
different action
that are on
items,
the
K
agenda, and we
and
need action.
L.
We need to approve them separately, though.
That's correct.
Separately.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2023-12A, amending the CRWA SUD's take or pay contract with the caveat, what other verb?
Contingent upon,
I'm sorry.
contingent
With
upon.
contingent upon the approval by the other entities.
Being crystal clear SUD.
The
and
entities being
County Line
crystal
SUD.
clear and Counterline SUD. Do I need to reword that again? Because I jacked it up. Okay,
I'll
all
second
right,
that.
there's a motion.
Okay.
Sorry. We have a motion by Mr. Cooper and a second by Mr. Hendricks. Mr. King?
Aye. No, I just.
Sorry. You said aye?
Yes.
No,
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passed, 6-1. All right, we're moving to item L, consideration of, resolution 23-12B.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2023-12B, approving the resolution of the Board of Directors of the Alliance ARWA, authorizing the issuance of Alliance Regional Water Authority Bond Anticipation Note, Regional Water Supply Contract Project Series 2023, and resolving other matters incident and relating to the issuance, payment, security, sale, and delivery of such note. With the contingency that Clear Creek, SUD, Crystal Clear, SUD, and County Line SUD approve also.
We'll second that as well.
Yeah, I have a motion by Mr. Cooper, a second by Mr. Hendricks. Mr. King?
Aye.
Mr. Sherman?
No.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passed, 6-1.
I appreciate everybody's work through this. I will offer two. I think there was some discussion mentioned at CRWA about requesting more updates potentially. I'd like to get a schedule to come back to you and provide you updates as to where we're at with all the efforts and including the admin building and where we're setting on that. So we'll get that scheduled. I'm
Even if
happy to
it's
come
a
to your
memo?
meetings.
yeah, even if it's a memo,
Just
Well,
kind of a status
you know,
update.
Sure, happy to do that.
don't assume that we're getting all the information that.
Yeah, I heard that the other night. So point taken and we'll get that taken care of. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate your time. Okay, so we are going to get back on track. Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, so at
Mr.
this
Spriggs,
time,
I'm gonna have to excuse myself. I
Mr.
apologize.
Sherman is leaving the meeting. Time is 1:53.
An item that you wanted to shepherd?
John, make sure we get future items,
RFQ
SGR
for
replacement,
bank
RFQ.
service. Okay, got it.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item agenda I, review bid tabulations and here utility engineering groups engineers recommendations and award contract, including authorizing the acting general manager to sign all necessary documents for the construction of the 2023 FM 2252 water line repair project and take action as necessary.
Good afternoon. This is the emergency project that we briefed you on at last board meeting a couple of weeks ago. We got it out to bid, open bids yesterday morning. We had 3 bidders. This is the well line. It's a 12-inch PVC line that has a leak close to the railroad tracks over in the Garden Ridge or Schertz area. We had 3 bidders. We left this kind of open because we were trying to get a contractor that could mobilize as quick as possible and then look at cost savings also. So we gave some options to put in an HDPE pipe option and then a PVC option. The low bidder is Pierce Site Work with the PVC option. So they would open cut, dewater and put in trench boxes and install the line. Their bid is $151,910. That's our recommendation, is to go with them. This has been through Green Valley staff and they support that option too. They've worked with Pierce in the past. They're actually working with Pierce on some projects right now. So unless there's questions, that's our recommendation, is Pierce at 151,910.
So my initial question would be the difference being about $42,000. Do you feel going the 16-inch HDPE option for future issues, is that area subjected to needing that anytime soon
No,
between
the
now and
only
5
reason
years?
we did the 16-inch HDPE option is the wall thickness of the pipe, and they
Right.
can install it through a trenchless method. So that's the only reason we went to 16. It's 12-inch on each side and will remain 12 unless you buy a bunch of Edwards Wrights that
No, we
haven't
don't
been
need.
planned. So,
Okay, so in understanding that that area is going to be well taken care of
yes,
just off of the 12-inch.
yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Does anybody have any else comments, questions? Robertson's back. Okay. Well, at this time, do I have a motion to approve the bid for Pierce Site Work LLC?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation. I'm sorry, you didn't make a recommendation.
Yes, the recommendation is pure site work for the.
Pure site- I'm
the
sorry.
12-inch.
Somebody else better verbalize this. I didn't put my notes away.
I make a motion to approve Pierce Site Works 2023 FM 2020, or sorry, 2252 water line repair project for the amount of $151 or $151,910. Sorry.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Frias and a second by Mr. King. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Robinson. Saying aye now or? All right, so 5 ayes. Any opposed? No opposed, and 2 were absent from the vote. Okay, moving on to item number J, review bid tabulations and hear utility engineering group's engineers' recommendation and award contract, including authorizing the acting general manager to sign all necessary documents for the construction of the advanced metering infrastructure project and take action as necessary.
On this one, my office just handled the bidding services for this one. There was no design. This is something that Green Valley staff has been working on for some time, at least several months, if not a year or so. This is, it was a competitive sealed proposal solicitation that went out. It was advertised in the newspaper, on the website and through Civcast. We had several meter companies reach out to us and ask questions during the bidding process, but only one submitted. Obviously, we would like to see multiples of those. The vast majority of the meters that you have in the system are Neptune meters, which are supplied by Core and Main. So they were, we anticipated them to be a player in this project, but was hoping to get some additional information and interest. The whole purpose, reason why we went to a competitive sealed proposal is to go through an interview process and a ranking of what other technologies are out there, what can other providers provide for the system. And this is to take place of drive-by meter reading. So basically it would be a fixed base system. They put antennas up on the elevated towers and be able to read the meters. There's also a customer facing component of that. It would be a system where they could log in and see water use in real time and look at their meter usage. Philip and his group or his team has dug into this much deeper than I did. Basically, I was just handling the bidding process. So if there's questions there, I believe it's within what was budgeted. There was funds budgeted for this current year. But as far as analysis and review of bids and all of that, that was all done internal to Green Valley. I'm just delivering the message and handling the bidding process. I would also be the one to, if you decide to move forward with it, we have the contract set up and it's a standard general construction contract. But that's really all I have.
What kind of time frame could we be looking at?
You know, Philip, on that one, time frame as far as implementation on the AMI?
I'd have to review the bid packet to see how long it would take, but this was something that we've been talking to. As Gary mentioned, we put this out for bid because we wanted, all right, let me back up before I finish that thought. We've been in talks with Core and Main for a while. We have a pretty good relationship with them. As Gary mentioned, we have a lot of Neptune meters already in the ground. It's a natural fit for us to go with this, but you know, as part of our responsibilities, we went out for bids to see what else is out there. What we're looking at, I don't know the timeline for implementation.
I would
but for
think
full
several years,
implementation,
wouldn't you?
This is just the first phase, so
Right.
Oh, okay.
there will be, it will be several phases
Okay.
phased in over several.
What initially, when we had worked with Core and Main in the past, and this goes back probably 24 months ago, we had an initial study done by them. To fully cover our service area, you're looking at about 11 different repeaters.
Yeah.
the budget that we put in the capital budget for fiscal year 24 is for about I believe it's 4 repeaters. And what we're going to do is put those in our most densely populated areas. So we're looking at this, the was it 1518 area,
Yeah.
Stiblo area, 1044, 725 area. So we're still going to have meter readers going out to the more remote locations, but this should alleviate some of the issues on those more dense areas. In addition, since the last board meeting when we did not, or it was notified that to the board that we were not going forward with the enterprise software, one thing that Neptune through Core & Main offers is a customer-facing portal so that those who do have access to or do have this implemented will be able to make an account and they can go in and look at their own readings as well.
Yeah, I think I remember getting a briefing on that some years ago, that was a potential, and that we could look at excessive water use. Might help us a bunch if we
Leak detection. is
leak
the-
detection, stuff up in the, how would that be? Garden Ridge area where we really need to watch the water usage up there.
This is a thing that staff has really been looking forward to, and it'll be our responsibility to also educate customers on how important this is. I will speak anecdotally. I'm a customer of New Braunfels Utilities, and I'm new to living in an area that is not just clay soil. I had a leak by my front door that I walked past for 2 days and had no idea that there was a leak until I got a call from NBU that said, "Hey, buddy, your meter's been running for 48 hours." And I'm in this business and had no idea. So it's a really beneficial thing for our customers.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the number attached to this. Approve the recommendations of Utility Engineering Group and award the contract, including authorizing the acting general manager to sign all necessary documents for the construction of the advanced metering infrastructure project.
Totaling 339,844, correct?
Totaling, I'm sorry, I didn't write that number.
339,884
$339,884. $884. No cents?
No cents.
0 cents. I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Cooper, a second by Mr. King. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. All right. Motion approved. All right, moving to, believe we covered that page.
Mike.
Going to items now M, authorizing the acting general manager to issue RFQ for engineering services and take action as necessary. Philip, do you want to talk about this one or do you want me to talk about it? All right, so, at this time, I wanted to bring to the board's, consideration if we want to publish an RFQ for other engineering services. Not saying that currently y'all have done us wrong. Please don't think that. It's just to have more options at this time. So at this point, I'll make a motion to authorize the acting general manager to issue the RFQ for engineering services published as necessary.
So moved.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving to item N. Authorizing the acting general manager to issue RFQ for climate survey consultant services and take action as necessary. So I brought to Philip's attention that due to the current situation that we are faced, I'd like to bring in a third-party professional to get with our employees, seek their concerns, unbiased by staff influence. In the military, whenever a change of command happens or a new, organization coming in, old organizations going out, whatever the case may be, a assessment of all troops, airmen, sailors gets done to get a baseline reading of what are their concerns without staff involvement or influence. I would want all the employees to feel that they can be open and honest without fear of retaliation or bias or influence from any staff members. This is so that the board can be educated as to how our employees currently feel or are there issues or matters that they want to speak about.
So
So
this would be an item that we would contract them. They would conduct personnel surveys and then come back and collectively
Correct.
report to the board.
report back to the board directly.
Okay.
What's the estimated cost and where are we getting the money?
So that's the RFQ part. That's the whole RFQs.
We don't know yet.
discovery. That's.
So
that's-
it's just the RFQ. You're
It's
not,
just the
you're not asking to
I'm
engage.
not asking to
All right.
engage it. It's just to get information.
I'll make a motion to approve an RFQ for climate survey consultant services.
I'll second.
Oh, go ahead.
It's a.
All right, so I have a motion by Mr. Cooper, a second by Mr. Robertson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. At this time, go to item O, hear updates on items below GVSUD General Counsel and take action as necessary. Pending threat and litigation, legal actions affecting the district. Shan? Nothing to report.
Microphone.
Nothing to report. Got it.
Thank you. Yes, nothing to report.
Thank you. Okay, jumping down to items U, consideration of proposed items to be included on next month's board agenda or meeting agenda. That'd be personnel matter.
Did I forget something, Phil? Is there something I might have?
No, 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 no,
Okay.
you're good.
All right.
We were just talking about personnel matters, when it needs to be on the agendas or not.
Oh, okay.
So that's gonna make next agenda. We do have, real quick to bring to attention to everybody. We have two, correct me right, Philip, two non-standard service water agreements that need to be dealt with before the end of the month. The understanding is Shan was able to knock them out. Thank you, Shan, for
Yes.
jumping on it over the weekend.
Yes, and staff has reviewed it and they are good to go.
Staff has reviewed. We are looking at a Tuesday or Wednesday timeframe. I'll take recommendations from the board as to what time and day. Would Wednesday at 9 a.m. work?
Can we have Cody send out a request for information? I don't have my calendar sitting in front of me.
Fine. I just wanted to see if something, because we got to do the open.
I
meeting
just,
thing.
I can't answer that question sitting here
If-
right now.
What days are we looking at
Tuesday and Wednesday
of next week?
of next week.
If I could just, a thought occurred to me because of Graham's presentation, because we are in three counties. We've utilized it once before, but you can
Video and
conduct a special meeting like this by video as long
Teams.
as the presiding officer is physically present in the location where the public is invited to attend.
so we'll do 9 a.m. Wednesday. All right, 9 a.m. Wednesday. Philip, if you can make sure the notice goes out appropriately. And then we'll address those two items. And then Shan, if you and Paul can give us an update at that time as to how Monday went with the mediation. I know it's it'll be fresh on y'all's mind and
No, it's a good idea. And yeah, we just need to identify in the special meeting, executive session to discuss wastewater CCN litigation, the typical.
we'll add
How
that.
long do you expect that meeting to last? Any idea?
Their part, I don't know. At the other items should be very quickly though.
I can't imagine the report taking more than 10 or 15 minutes of your time.
Yep.
We can basically just report where we are and see whether the board supports the direction we're going in
One
or
out
where
of
we've
nine.
arrived. Yeah.
Okay,
As long as we get
Tuesday?
4 here, we're good.
right. So 9 a.m.,
9 a.m. Wednesday, the
Wednesday.
20th.
20.
About the discussion about the meeting Tuesday. or Wednesday?
About the results
The results
from
from
the
mediation.
mediation.
Yeah, so we're gonna do non-standard service agreements and then the executive session for the updates to y'all.
All of it will be an hour-ish.
Okay.
I have a bit of a conflict later that morning, so I would appreciate the opportunity to appear remotely by
That's
video.
perfectly fine.
Okay,
I would
thanks.
Are you good with that?
So I'll
Is
be
there
here.
any other items that need to be added?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
That's for next month or? what do you-
For next
All
month.
right, I got next one. Okay, moving to item V, Mr. Cooper.
Motion to adjourn.
right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Time is 2:11. Thank you very much.